Yeah, so that's a very good question. Should we take the numbers in the Old Testament? Should we take the years and the size of armies as strictly literal? And it's a bit of a tough question because you use the word literal. So I want to say yes, in that the author is intending to report a real number that has real meaning. I do have to say no in the sense that the author is not a post-Enlightenment, scientifically minded person. So when Moses writes numbers, when Moses writes about a time period or a size of an army, or David or Joshua or Samuel, the way they use numbers is they round. Yes. Clearly, they use round numbers, they use zeros. The other thing is they clearly use them in symbolic ways, spiritually communicative ways. So it would be a little difficult to know which one is being used which way. By the way, I recommend learning Hebrew. Hebrew numbers, we kind of don't know what they're doing. Most Hebrew scholars will admit, when we say this number is this, that's an educated guess. For the most part, Hebrew numbers are a bit of a mystery to us. We're not really sure what they're telling us. It's something that's a bit fuzzy to us as scholars. So that's another reason why we need to be humble and we need to be careful. The author does want us to get something concrete, something real, something literal. But probably not in the sense that we mean those words. 7 days of creation is actually, don't misunderstand me, a little easier than a lot of the other numbers. The reason 7 days of creation is easier is because we have the days of the week. We can't observe what God meant when he said day 1, day 2, day 3. It's like, here it is. It's remained in the warp and woof of the world. Whereas if you applied numbers, to a battle, did David really go? Did David really have 1 million men in his army? Really? Well, honestly, the Hebrew number that's there, we're not sure what it means. That's our best guess, and it's a good guess. But we might be off by a decimal placement or more. And so those are more the numbers that get really tricky, where how many died in this battle? How many came out in exile? How many came out of Egypt, in the Exodus? Those numbers are much harder to be sure. We're not actually sure what those numbers are. We have a pretty good guess. We're 80% sure, 75% sure. We're pretty sure. Well, I would go back to the principles I was laying out, before, where I would say, well, number one, their main purpose is theological and spiritual. They're giving you a number that tells you something about God. It doesn't tell you something about the battle. We with our Western minds, our scientific minds, we're like, how many soldiers fought in that battle? And the Hebrew author would look at us and go, who cares? It's not the point. There was a lot more of them and a lot fewer of us. And we won. That's the point. There was 10,000 of them and only 100 of us. It's like, really? Well, I don't know, rounding, roughly. So that would be my one answer, is that it's meant to communicate a principle, not an exact scientific fact or historical fact. The second thing I would say is that, oh, come on, guys, we do this all the time. Seriously. In the West, we round all the time. We round by hundreds. We round by thousands. When was the last time you guys actually saw what the Scottish government spends? When was the last time the newspaper actually reports that as a real number? When we were here in 2004, they were building the Parliament building. They estimated 45 million. They ended up with 450 million. It's part of human nature to use numbers. Anyone who's been in the university on this stuff, there are lies There are, exaggerated lies, and there are statistics. The highest form of deceit is numbers. So that's just part of the way we relate to the world, is you can make a number say anything. And so we need to recognize that God is using these numbers in a rich and inspiring and meaningful way that is not beholden to our scientific minds.